Vacations are the part of our lives we look forward to the most. Vacations act as a reward for our hard work. They're a time when we can live carefree and enjoy ourselves. While we believe that the experience of vacations lead to more satisfaction with life, less stress, and less burnout from work, the science says otherwise. In fact, over 40 years of research indicate that vacations have no substantial or lasting impact on stress, burnout, or life satisfaction. So why do we think vacations work? The reason we feel they work is that vacations have strong short-term effects. Take, for example, a study of teachers in Germany. It was found that work engagement rose by 14% and emotional exhaustion decreased by 49% after a vacation compared to before. 1 week after a vacation, work engagement was still up 4.5% and emotional exhaustion was down 18% compared to before. After 4 weeks, there was no statistical difference. In another study measuring exhaustion, health complaints, and life satisfaction, researchers found that immediately after a vacation, you'll see improvement. If you were to line up 100 people from least healthy and happy to most, if the 50th person in line received a vacation and no one else, they'll rise to 33rd place once they return, but would quickly fade to 48th place by the end of 2 weeks and back to their original position soon afterwards. That's not to say there's no long-term effects at all, it's just that those long-term effects are incredibly small. In a study involving over 1,600 Dutch participants over 8 years, it was found that going on vacation could very slightly improve the presence of positive emotions and increase life satisfaction. If you take one extra vacation this year, you'll likely see a long-term increase of 0.25% in life satisfaction and 0.75% in positive emotion. It's so small, you won't even notice it. When you think about it, it's kind of obvious why vacations don't really improve your long-term happiness. Say you plan a trip to Disneyland. While it's all fun and park rides when you're there, once you're back home, you're back to your daily grind. Disneyland didn't fix many of the problems in your life. They didn't improve your relationship with your coworkers, give you a better job, resolve your marital issues, and it definitely did not help your financial situation. So that being said, is that it? Vacations don't work, so stop having them. My life won't be any better with vacations. Well, no. Vacations can be effective. Imagine that you got on a flight leaving your home and you're flying to your final warm vacation destination. To get there, you have to spend 6 hours between flights at the Budapest International Airport in Hungary. When you get there, it's freezing cold and snowing. Most people don't like freezing weather. The worst part of the year to commute to school, work, or go shopping is in freezing weather. That is, if you're anyone in the world except for tourists. In a study by Columbia and Harvard University, an overwhelming 77% of participants said that they would prefer to explore the city rather than watch a movie in the airport. This is despite it being freezing cold and despite only 34% estimating it would be a more pleasant experience. Imagine you're a local Budapest resident. You walk into a local shop covered in snow. You tell the people inside that you're enjoying your day by exploring the city. They would take one look at you and one look outside and think, you may be a bit crazy. But if you're a tourist, they won't even bat an eye at you. They'll do the same thing when they're tourists. In another example, say you are given two options for a hotel stay. You can either stay at the Quebec Ice Hotel, a place filled with intricate ice sculptures and unique decor, which boosts a cozy room temperature of around 25 Fahrenheit or -4 Celsius, or option B, a warm Florida hotel. If you're anything like the people who took part in this study, you would overwhelmingly identify the Florida hotel as a more pleasurable experience, with 89% of participants saying it'd be more pleasant. Yet, 72% of the participants chose to sleep on a slab of ice in freezing conditions in the ice hotel. Why? Do we not go on vacations to have the most fun in the most entertaining environment possible? Believe it or not, no, we don't go on vacations to have the most fun. In fact, we are increasingly seeking a new type of experience that isn't always the most pleasant, called the collectible experience. There's a powerful reason why we are collecting them, like we would trading cards, snow globes, or bobbleheads. A reason that supersedes the pleasure of being warm, comfortable, and entertained. Something more important, enough for us to brave freezing conditions during what is supposed to be one of our happiest times of our lives. And that reason is the feeling of productivity. Productivity? It may seem odd that we're taking vacations to feel more productive. After all, don't we take vacations to get away from the stress of having to be increasingly productive? Why would the feeling of productivity be important important for vacations? Well, productivity is a fundamental human desire. Even when we're not working, humans are driven by a innate need to be productive, to make progress in our lives, achieve more in less time, and add to our list of accomplishments. We can never escape productivity. For example, productivity drives us to collect physical things, to work hard, to own our own homes, get designer furniture, the latest electronics, even when we don't need them. Being able to afford and have more nice things is a sign of progress and accomplishment in our lives. That drive for progress in our lives is now increasingly motivating us to collect memorable, intangible things. 30 years ago, the thing you did to impress your friends was to get a nice car. Nowadays, people are more impressed that you backpacked your way across Asia, went mountain biking in Italy, or snowboarding in the Alps. People realize that a nice car doesn't really do anything. Sure, it can get up to the speed limit about half a second faster, but all it does is look nice and requires more time and money to maintain. It says more about the owner's vanity than their character. Whereas with vacations, people often interpret positive characteristics from the vacationer. Outdoor activities or challenging travel stories are often linked with a sense of adventurism, positive attitude, friendliness, and a general sense of happiness. Being busy is the new status symbol. People like to talk about the hours they spend at their hobbies, hiking, marathon running, sports, because more and more people want to live an active and novel lifestyle. They want to be the person who gets to explore and appreciate the natural beauty of the world, pushing their physical and mental limits, learning new things. They don't want to be the person in the fancy car. That's not to say that nice things aren't nice. It's nice when you move from a tiny apartment barely fit for one person to, say, a modest townhouse. However, move from that modest townhouse to a, per se, large mansion, and the effect on your happiness will wear off in a few months. This concept, known as the hedonic treadmill, states that once your basic needs are sufficiently met, you quickly adapt to your new surroundings, whether it be a larger house or a fancier car. It's like, well, a treadmill. You're running in place and not really getting happier. While the hedonic treadmill applies for physical things, it doesn't apply to memories though. You see, memories do a strange thing. Rather than depreciate over time in their ability to make you happy, like a large house, memories appreciate in their value to make you happy over time. They escape the treadmill. Increasingly, people are measuring their self-worth and self-esteem by their experiences. When we come back from our vacations, we reminisce to our coworkers about our escapade in Budapest during a winter storm, without mentioning the fact that we could barely feel our fingers the whole time. The memory becomes even happier, even if we weren't happy in the moment. Here lies the key to long-term happiness and great vacations: memory management. As human beings, we actively work to create a collection of memories that make us happier. Memories are what makes us who we are. If we wake up the next day without any memories, are we really the same person? Similarly, having decades of memories that are mostly positive tend to make us happy and cheerful, while having memories that are mostly negative can make us spiteful and sad. Memories are not like consumable goods. They stick around for a long time, and the happiness we gain from them is not immediate. It's spread out through every other day in our lives. We, mostly unconsciously, make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains in happiness by focusing on collecting these memories. For that reason, the biggest benefit of vacation is the memories we bring back, not the feeling we had while on vacation. It's why people train months and wait for the perfect weather in abysmal living conditions to climb Mount Everest, to a place where the air is so thin we die without the support from an oxygen tank in hours. Now, you don't have to climb Mount Everest to be happy. Challenging vacations or learning a new skill can do the same thing. It has to be something that not everyone can do and makes you feel good about it, like being the only person you know who can make decorative birdhouses. Try spending your vacation learning something fun, like how to carve animals out of wood. You'll probably never use this skill again or commercially, but it'll make you happy to know that you can do it, and you may end up with some great conversation starters in your home. Of course, it's not that simple as picking any unusual or novel experience or challenge. There are a few things you need to generate memories that make you happy in the long term. The first part of that puzzle is simply your perception of the memory. Let's take a look at a study which examined revelers on New Year's Eve in Times Square. These are people who came to the Big Apple in a crowded area to spend their New Year's night singing, often to strangers. Now, what would happen if you tell these people that it's going to snow? In response, only 33% would say they're happy that it's going to snow. When you prime them to think about the long term, the value of this memory 10 years from now, then mention it only snows once every 15 years on New Yor's Eve in Times Square, how many of these same people will indicate that they'd be happy it's going to snow? Well, according to the study, a whopping 83%, or about 5 out of 6 people. Now, these were the same people, generating the same memory. Framing the memory around uniqueness, novelty, and the long-term effects greatly improved the way they perceived the memory. It's like how you may go to medical school and cry yourself to sleep every night, but in about 10 years you'll probably look back on fondly and think it was the best time of your life, feeling proud of what you've done. After all, you perceive the experience to be good for you. It's also important that you go on what's called appreciative vacations. In an Italian study examining types of vacations, it was found that those who go on appreciative vacations, such as hiking, sightseeing, or bird watching, to appreciate things like nature, history, or art, see greater improvements to their emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Those who go on consumptive vacations, say to hunt or fish, don't see the same benefit. The reason for the benefit of appreciative vacations versus consumptive vacations can be found in behavioral economics. Say for example, you're helping one of your friends move into their new home. It's hard work, and at the end of the day, you're presented with one of 2 possible outcomes. The first outcome, your friend just says thank you. The second outcome, your friend says thank you and offers you $100. From a purely economic standpoint, since your friend thanked you in both outcomes, and the second outcome you get $100, and money is nice to have, you should be happier with the second outcome. However, behavioral economics say otherwise. In fact, you would be significantly happier in the first outcome without financial compensation. Why is that? It's because the second outcome shifts your focus from intrinsic gain, internal mental, to extrinsic gains, gains in the physical world. The reason we strive to be smarter, kinder, and more resilient is often to improve our own self-image. In other words, it makes us feel good about the person we become. We see ourselves as a good friend by helping out when our friends need us. That's the intrinsic gain. It's a very powerful factor in affecting your overall happiness. However, when you're paid, this shifts your focus to extrinsic gains. You perceive the whole activity as more work for money and lose the perception of yourself being a helpful friend. Say you haven't seen your dad in ages. He invites you to go on a fishing trip to reconnect. If you don't catch any fish, the memory would be a lot happier than if you caught a fish, because the fish takes away from the focus on reconnecting with your dad. You can find these findings with volunteers too. It turns out if you pay unpaid volunteers, they stop volunteering. They start to see volunteering less as something to benefit the community and part of being a good person, and more as unpaid overtime work, often at inconvenient times of the day or weekend. That's not to say all extrinsic gain is bad. Something that only has intrinsic value can make you very happy. For example, if your goal is to visit and get a postcard from every state in the United States, that physical, intrinsic object, the postcard, has intrinsic value. It's there to remind you of your experiences. If you help a family in need to build a home to live in, and they give you a decorative bowl to remember them by, that bowl becomes more than a bowl. It becomes a memory of the good you've done in the world. For the greatest impact, your vacations should have a meaningful impact that's clearly linked to your actions. In a study by the University of Chicago and MIT, researchers paid 2 groups of students to assemble Legos. Each group received a box with all 40 parts to assemble a Lego toy. A researcher would come by, take the finished toy, and give them another box if they wish to continue. For the first group, the researchers would place the finished assembled toy on a desk in front of the participant, where the toys would accumulate. In a second group, a researcher would disassemble the toy in front of them, place it in the box, and give it back to the participant after they finished their next toy. What were the results? The people who got to see their completed work accumulated assembled 47% more than those who saw their work taken apart in front of them. In other words, being able to see the impact you make greatly improves your motivation. This happens at work and on vacations too. Say you're asked to quickly compile a report, make an analysis and recommendations by tomorrow morning. Even though you had to work tirelessly through the night to finish it, it was challenging and important work that you can feel satisfied about. However, if you complete it only to be told it wasn't needed anymore, it's likely you'll be significantly less motivated the next time you're asked to do anything. For vacations, being physically able to see the positive effects on your action, smiles on people's faces because of you, people taking clean drinking water from a well you built, these are the things you'll remember in the decades to come. Finally, it's important that your trip builds resources and relationships. In psychology, there's a widely supported phenomenon known as the broaden and build theory. Say you're in a good mood. On your way home, you decide to get some ice cream. Instead of getting your usual flavor, you decide to try a new flavor, Blueberry Blast. It's really good, and now you have another option for ice cream flavors when you're in the mood for ice cream. Because you're in a good mood, you decide to talk with your local librarian and learn that you both share an interest in reading A Song in Ice and Fire. Well, now you have someone to talk to once the new book comes out. Eventually. Hopefully. George, please, it's been 11 years. Broaden and build suggests that even brief experiences of positive emotion can broaden people's thoughts and actions. This results in building of resources and relationships with other people. Long-term building of relationships and resources lead to individuals having more positive experiences and emotions. It's a cycle that leads to increasing and long-term satisfaction and happiness. When you're next on vacation, try some exotic dishes. If you like them, you can try and replicate your favorite exotic meals at home, always taking a part of the vacation with you. One day, perhaps, you can be proud that you taught yourself to cook dishes from 30 different countries. Having more frequent but shorter vacations can improve the effect of broaden and build. Studies have shown that vacations do not improve beyond 6 days in length. Having more but shorter vacations can benefit you. Instead of taking 5 days off and having a week without work, why not try 5 3-day-long weekends if possible? This way, you can keep up a positive mood for more of the year by more frequently recharging yourself. Or try to find out how long it would take you to feel disengaged with work. The times we often don't want to take a vacation are when we're feeling productive and engaged, while the times we most want a vacation are when we feel unproductive and disengaged. Some people may start to feel disengaged after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4. It really depends on you, so plan your vacation accordingly. Planning is another important factor. Just planning your vacation is shown to reduce stress before, during, and after, leading to higher overall vacation satisfaction. It's also important to leave your plans mostly flexible. You don't want to feel like you're on a tight schedule while you're trying to have fun. Leave some gaps and spaces. Be sure that you have a rough idea where you're sleeping and possible meals, tourist attractions, and fun activities. Now, these tips don't apply for everyone. Older vacationers don't benefit from unique or novel experiences as significantly. As we age, we tend to benefit less from the memories we create. When you're younger, it makes sense. You have decades for these memories to make you happy, but if you're in the last years of your life, you have little to gain. Memories still have an impact though, but preserving them, not generating them, has more of an effect in old age. In a study of physical possessions, it was found that younger couples tend to fill their homes with things linked to future plans and goals. Ropes and anchors to go rock climbing, surfboards to go surfing, yoga mats, hiking gear. Meanwhile, older couples tend to keep things that preserve their past memories, photo albums, souvenirs from vacations, educational certificates and awards. For vacations in retirement, it may be good to visit relatives. Focus on reconnecting with friends and visiting places that previously brought you pleasant memories to strengthen your connection with those memories. The more pleasant types of vacations also start to work more in old age. In a study of retired adults in the US, it was found that retired baby boomers buy 80% of all luxury travel. After all, you're retired, you're technically always on vacation, and you probably aren't as productivity oriented as you were when you were younger. So why does it matter if there's no long-term effect on happiness when your time is too short? Now is the time to go to Cancun, sip fine wine at the beach, and soak in the sun. Another group of people who generally don't benefit from vacations are supervisors. These are people who have to broadly manage a business or direct employees. While non-supervisors enjoy decreased burnout and reduced stress during vacations, for those with supervisor duties, they don't see a long-term decrease in burnout. In fact, stress is shown to increase for the period before and after vacations. It's hard to say for certain why this happens for supervisors only. With the diversity of jobs out there and the different kinds of stress they entail, there are some theories though. As a supervisor, your job is to deal with the uncertainties of a business. Late deliveries, equipment malfunctions, absent employees. These uncertainties can happen at any time and you have to be prepared for them. If something breaks down, the supervisor is often responsible for planning the repair. Corporate is probably looking at the money lost per every second it isn't repaired. Another study showed that when people reflect on the negative parts of one's job during a vacation, it results in more burnout and health complications immediately after and within 2 weeks of vacation. If you're a supervisor on vacation, you're probably thinking about what could go wrong when you're away and not what could go right. In other words, You can't truly mentally detach yourself from your work during vacations. You're always at work, even when you're on vacation. Except when you're on vacation, you have even less control over what happens at work, what could go wrong, and if and how it's solved. All of this is compounded by how performance is reviewed. A lot of workers' productivity is measured by what they achieve with their work hours, while many supervisors are measured by overall productivity for their unit, which is negatively affected by working less, by say, going on vacation. So that's what we know about the science of vacations so far. However, it's important to note that the science is based on the past. The world is constantly changing. 100 years ago, it would have taken weeks or months to cross oceans and vast distances on land on streamliners and trains. For the most part, unless you're incredibly wealthy, escapades beyond your local town were not possible. In the last 50 years, large decreases in the cost of international flight have given birth to the modern-day tourism industry. In the 1970s, the cost for a returning flight from New York to London was around $3,200. Meanwhile, the same flight 50 years later, in 2020, is just under $1,000. Within hours, you can plan and book a vacation halfway across the world and have all the logistics and amenities in place expecting your arrival. That would have been unimaginable in the 1920s, especially for the average person, let alone the wealthiest of the wealthiest. No one 50 years ago would have imagined how common and ubiquitous air travel is now. Well, with the increasing digital world, could it be possible that vacations could take place in a digital space? With virtual reality becoming quickly affordable, the digital environment is increasingly becoming physically interactable at a low cost. You can do things in a digital environment that you can in a physical one. Jump around a forest at lightning speed, play laser tag on the moon. Could that drive the future of vacations? Conscientious spending is also increasing. People are increasingly using their money for good, tourism included. Maybe in the distant future, your next trip to Brazil would fund reforestation and jobs for locals. We visit vineyards to learn about and drink wine. Why not tour chocolate and coffee plantations, which could become a way to support and generate revenue for poor farmers, or provide funding for educational opportunities for them and their communities and safer working environments, all while sampling fresh coffee and decadent chocolates. What about work itself? For the vast majority of people, vacations only account for 5% of their lives. The biggest chunk of our lives is often work. Research on the quality of either work experiences or leisure experiences found that the positive experiences in people's lives come more from work than leisure. Rather than focusing on vacations, a small part of our lives, how about changing work? In the past, before electricity and clocks, people often worked at their own pace according to when their work demanded it. Any time between sunrise and sunset usually. After industrialization, time has become the ultimate scarcity, which we measure everything against. We watch the minutes before the end of our work shift. We notice when a commute takes 40 minutes rather than 30 minutes. Increasingly, we see time as something to guard, hoard, and protect, the ultimate commodity. Now, people are increasingly looking not just at their time at work, but how it feels during those times. In essence, how they spend their work time and how it links to overall a better experience. In the last year, better working conditions, remote work privileges, and amenities have been increasingly demanded and granted as companies try to retain their workers. Meanwhile, companies also recognize the effect of working conditions on overall productivity and health. A lack of rest and low work engagement is often linked to low productivity, low worker retention, and lengthy sick leaves. People are also increasingly health conscious. One of the primary determinants of burnout is how recovered someone feels in the morning. After all, if you feel a lack of energy and positive emotion in the morning, it's hard to generate more energy or positive emotions at work. Better sleep and self-care could result in just a generally happier life. Maybe for your next vacation, invest some time in your future health by investing in your sleep, planning some exercise, or perhaps treating yourself and visiting a health spa. How about the commute? The future could involve more public transportation and self-driving cars. Without a need to pay attention to traffic, people could focus more on enjoying themselves, browsing the web, learning new skills, or playing games. Or try to cycle to work. It's an opportunity to incorporate exercise and fresh air into your routine. If it's too much physical exercise to bike to work, why not consider electric bikes? In the end, the best vacation plan may be a holistic life plan. So whether it's our daily lives or for our occasional vacation, the world is increasingly one with more choice, more options, and opportunities. Throughout all this, one thing will likely remain true, a fundamental part of our human nature. Sometimes, the best way to be happy ourselves is to focus on making others happy. Thank you for watching. I'm aiming to post every couple of weeks. Please subscribe to Double Cognitive for future content on psychology and behavioral economics, especially if you found this video interesting. You can support me via Patreon, link is in the description. With enough support, I'll be able to continue making these videos for the foreseeable future.